I recently shared the story of my sexless marriage, part one. I'll include a link in the podcast description in case you missed it. And toward the end, I promised that I would share part two. And I can't wait. Hello, and welcome to the No Hair, All Heart podcast. I am your bald host, Mookie Spitz. And the heart that I'm sharing today is exactly that. From Horny to Heartbroken, the story of my sexless marriage, part two, where after doing all the wrong things for all the right reasons, I somehow finally got laid. Half of all marriages end in divorce, and of those that don't, an alarming percentage wallow in unhappiness. Despite these sad statistics, predicting which marriages fail and which succeed remains a mystery. So when my accidental girlfriend got accidentally pregnant weeks after we first met, I did the right thing, despite those odds, and married pretty much a total stranger. I'm tall, she's short. I'm loud, she's quiet. I was a bald, middle aged white guy, and she was a younger, attractive Korean woman. I wanted to keep the baby and projected a life of marital geisha girl bliss. She more accurately saw a sugar daddy dangling green card and Amex, offering her a 1950s vision of suburban American leisure, while her inner ninja planned a breezy, sexless marriage. Getting knocked up was her first excuse, a good one. I did research, and a small but significant segment of women indeed lose interest in sex when pregnant. Postpartum moodiness came next, officially precipitating a dry decade, momentarily interrupted 4 years later by having, yes, another kid. Mission fully accomplished, she sealed off her demilitarized zone for good. As told in my other blog post, The Story of My Sexless Marriage, Part 1, From Sperm Bank to Vasectomy, I mourned the demise of our love life through the 5 stages of grief, shifting from denial to anger, bargaining to depression, and then finally to acceptance. Since I learned long ago that anger and depression are 2 sides of the same feudal coin, I did my best to bargain my way back, laughing as much as crying every salabit step of the way. Flowers, date night, doing chores. Nothing worked. She didn't like our bed, so I got a new bed. She didn't like our bedroom, didn't like our apartment, so we replaced those too. My vasectomy was a last-ditch attempt that didn't help either, but at least assured me that I had tried everything to appease her, getting us both off the hook. The Netflix original miniseries about our sexless marriage could very well be called Unfuckable. After she ran out of excuses and finally fessed up to never letting me hit it, we entered the acceptance phase and our relationship actually improved. All expectations curbed and pretenses removed, we gradually shifted from faking a shitty marriage into embracing more honest roles as doting parents and reluctant roommates, each of us making the most of a hopeless situation. Détente didn't happen overnight, but we eventually started speaking again. Having officially thrown in the towel on any physical relationship, we got frank about our feelings for each other. She couldn't have cared less whether I lived or died so long as the bills were paid, while I agreed to stay with her because our young kids preferred mom and dad living together. Our new and relatively peaceful arrangement nonetheless begged the question of how I'd ever get laid. My bed, the living room sofa, my love life best described by my browser history, fake plush and web porn can only get me so far. The well was dry at home and I was thirsty. Our marriage was bullshit and my lust was real. So sooner or later, something and someone had to give. When husbands wander, they tend to be self conscious and sloppy, like men are with most things. Inevitably, they get exposed and busted, usually because they want to. Their way, perhaps, of simultaneously saying, fuck you, and I'm sorry. I was no different, doing what a happily married man would never do, yet not crossing any boundaries until boundaries soon crossed me. Word got out at work that my home fires were smoldering, extinguishing any chance of overtime nookie. Formerly flirty single women suddenly ran for the hills as my married guy shield collapsed, while unhappily married women who once craved this paragon of family man virtue now looked into my desperate eyes and saw the reflection of their own disappointed husbands. Coming up empty at home and office, I had other options, of course. But we lived in Irvine, California, on the top 10 list of safest places in the country. A city planner's wet dream: choose any cardinal direction and you'll run into a school, a pool, then another school. Thoroughly domesticated, trapped like a lab rat in a suburban maze, I felt too claustrophobic to have a local affair. Luckily, at that same time, circa the fall of 2008, this annoying social media platform called Facebook was gaining popularity. People friended acquaintances and even total strangers and posted pictures of food, which got liked. Pointless games were played that asked permission to access all your personal information, and everyone consented without thinking twice. We had no idea what we were doing or what was going on, and we couldn't have cared less. Years before hostile foreign powers hijacked these social networks to destroy democracy, guys like me used them to destroy their marriages. One such lonely Orange County afternoon, my horniness morphed into nostalgia, a maudlin condition called nostalginess and hornalgia. Anyway, when I shamelessly succumbed to the most shameful of digital deeds, searching for ex-lovers on Facebook. After several tries came up missing or married, I typed Anna Fortnight and stared transfixed at the screen. Not a common name, I nonetheless got dozens of results, yet none of them an obvious match. But as I scrolled down, an alluring woman from Philadelphia drew my attention. Long blonde hair, wearing a scarf, holding a cat, mysteriously facing away from the camera. I could not see her face. The Anna I dated nearly 20 years before was in Los Angeles, a busty brunette, dressed 72 and sunny, was allergic to cats. By any stretch, this Anna Fortnight wasn't that Anna Fortnight, but I applied the same strategy trying to have sex with a stranger that I had unsuccessfully tried to have sex with my wife. I was married, so had nothing to lose. Going for it, I sent Anna a private message. Greetings from California. I'm looking for Anna Fortnight, a woman I dated years ago in California. If you're that Anna, hello again from Mookie. And if you're not that Anna, then I sincerely apologize for bothering you. Mookie. What was I thinking, I thought. Up to then, I hadn't taken Facebook seriously nor understood its potential. distractedly befriending dead presidents, cartoon characters, and dudes named Mookie Spitz. While most people gloated about their fabulous families, jobs, and vacations, I counter-programmed with random science trivia and updates from the toilet. My social presence was therefore so full of garbage that I panicked, wondering what Anna Fortnight or anyone else for that matter would think if my intentionally ridiculous page were their sole source of background info on me. So you can imagine my surprise when, less than an hour after sending my desperate message into the ether, this new Anna Fortnight actually responded. Hello from Pennsylvania. No, I'm not the Anna Fortnight you dated in California. What kind of a name is Mookie anyway? Don't worry about bothering me. I'd love to have a Facebook friend on the West Coast, so let's stay in touch. Anna. A mouse click away, we clicked and became Facebook friends. I zoomed to her now visible profile page, saw a kaleidoscopic of hot babes sporting various poses across life's many settings, bespectacled with colleagues, tipping beers with her bar pals, smiling with parents, smirking with what looked like grown kids, gardening with the sun blazing through her long, beautiful hair. Ooh. Getting attention from a gorgeous woman, even if only through social media, got my lonely heart racing. I was alive. Somebody cared, and not just anybody, but Anna Fortnight, a mysterious new friend with the same name and hots, yet completely different look of a former lover. Did that count as deja vu? Was I plummeting into the past or hurling headlong into the future? Nowadays, people meet online all the time, openly admit to, and even boast about hooking up that way. But in the early days of social media, most lovers insisted on using aliases for the same reason people were terrified of doing their banking over the web. You had no idea whom you were talking to, where your private information went, feeling more exposed than engaged. That's because 20 years ago, our moms told us to never talk to strangers or get into a car we didn't recognize. Fast forward, and now people buy nearly everything on Amazon and take an Uber everywhere. About a decade ago, rules of privacy, security, and convenience were already evolving, but slowly. Anne and I weren't exactly trailblazers, but we were out on a limb for sure. As the boundaries of privacy and propriety shifted, new standards formed, largely driven by convenience. A proven strategy of online dating, for example, is cut right to the chase. After checking out profiles and exchanging a few very short messages, the immediate next step is an in person meeting in a public place, just a coffee, maybe a drink. The goal is to quickly and efficiently vet a potential lover face to face, instantly decide yay or nay. Otherwise, it can become an enormous waste of time. But Anne and I broke every rule in the digital dating book that was still being written. We rapidly migrated from Facebook messages to personal email. What began as short, off the cuff, what I did today blasts turned into a daily, increasingly detailed, and heartfelt exchange where we got deeper and deeper into sharing thousands of words about our innermost thoughts and feelings. From our first few messages, Anna overwhelmed me with her scintillating wit, masterful erudition, exquisite sense of humor. She was smart, fast, funny, and sexy. She effortlessly shifted gears from flirty frivolity to poignant polemics about art, politics, relationships, and her life story. Her personality shone through every sentence, and I devoured every word, insatiable for more. Maybe we tacitly assumed the distance was a shield. More likely, we had no idea what we were doing. I was, after all, still married and had never wandered. She was recently divorced from a bad marriage that was bad in many of the same ways mine was. Loveless, echoing with emotional and intellectual emptiness, We endured years dedicated to family, yet devoid of any fun. As our emailing, messaging, and real time texting built up steam, so did the sexual tension. Somehow we sensed that actually talking on the phone was out of the question, would break our magic spell. Perhaps we both wanted to ride the crescendo of desire to who knew where, or feared disappointment. Instinctively, we sensed something special was afoot and chose to save it until we actually met. We didn't have long to wait. Facebook being Facebook, my friends friended her and her friends friended me and mine. One of her friends was Mike, a high school classmate with whom we shared love for film and theater. I stirred his attention when I posted that David Mamet was on Broadway that season, Speed the Plow. Turned out truer words were never spoken. Offhandedly, Mike suggested, "What the hell, buddy? Fly to New York City and check it out." Anna chimed in on the same thread. "Sounds like a blast. Let's all go see it." The idea triggered another flurry of back and forth likes, comments, and shares, the possibility of meeting each other in person, tantalizing and terrifying us. Mike proved to be an awesome wingman, calmed us down, kept us on point, at least online. Meeting Anna across the country suddenly made as much sense to me as never having spoken to her. Feeling the heat, Mike became an even more awesome wingman and bowed out. It would be just me and Anna, the two of us. I booked the flights, bought tickets to the show, and reserved the hotel room in Manhattan. Anna agreed to meet me there before curtain call. Knock, knock. We'd go out to dinner, take things from there. Take things from there? What the fuck? How about from where and significantly to where? Unhappily married with kids was one state of being. Happily girlfriended while still unhappily married with kids was another. So far, the only skin in the game I had was hundreds of emails, messages, and texts. I hadn't officially strayed, at least not yet. Had any common sense or hope that my marriage wasn't totally bullshit remained, then those doubts were annihilated by the intoxicating rush of finally meeting and spending an entire weekend with my new Anna Fortnight. That she might in person be nothing like her writing didn't enter my frazzled mind. My desire had overtaken my loneliness with hallucinogenic zeal. Meanwhile, my sexless married home life paradoxically improved. Sensing a crescendo of distraction bordering on euphoria, my wife took advantage by foregoing the obligation to talk to me at all, or justifying her perceptible increase in credit card swipes. Fuck it, let her shop. I had plans. And with all my business travel that year, neither she nor the kids would miss me. Within 24 hours of my departure, Anna and I stopped communicating, as if we bowed our heads in reverential silence while our caravan approached the Holy Land. Lost in the desert of our marriages for so long, we no longer cared whether the looming oasis was real or an illusion. The unlikely voodoo that brought us together and electrified our rapport was infinitely irresistible. On impulse, I bought the script for the Mamet play we'd soon see on Broadway. A former theater critic in Chicago, I often read the plays before I reviewed them, and now imagined how Anna and I could similarly enhance our experience. So, with a tinge of presumption, zero irony, and hope for good luck, I tucked a few condoms into a hard copy of Speed the Plow. Jeremy Piven, Kiss My Ass. I texted her when I arrived at JFK. "I'm here." She succinctly replied, "I'll be there." That was it. And until we were set to meet several hours later, I was on my own to face the ecstasy and agony of contemplating this absurd situation. Terrified she wouldn't show, I visualized myself alone in New York City, stuck in my posh hotel room like the ultimate sucker, hustled at home, and now here in Manhattan. More alarming than a no-show, she might appear and look nothing like her photos. Duh. Or she'd dazzle my eyes, the tease no match for intractable interpersonal chemistry. Or both. She could have been some dude for all I knew, a prankster or stalker, or worse, far worse. We brazenly broke all the rules every step of the way, and had the time now come for me to pay that karmic piper. The few frantic minutes before she was set to arrive, I paced my NYC hotel room like a caged chimpanzee. In the bathroom, I stared into the mirror at this bald, middle-aged white guy who looked way out of his league. Back at the door, I anxiously peered through the eye hole at a fisheye view of an empty corridor, then shambled back to the bathroom only to rinse and repeat. The feeling of trapped urgency reminded me of the marriage I was fleeing. Nobody put a gun to my head to marry a woman I hardly knew, while two young kids couldn't justify staying in a hopelessly dysfunctional relationship. Far as I could tell, I'd done everything possible to save our sexless marriage. But if I was going to blow it up, it'd have to be for an equally powerful reason. What did I want? How much was I actually in control? Psychiatrists insist we relive our childhood fears in our adult relationships, endlessly replaying scenarios meant to send us back into comfort zones, or at least what we consider home, no matter how painful or difficult or even awful. That's why we fall into repeating patterns, hook up with similar types of people, the wrong types of people, wreck things in the same ways for the same reasons. Given all that, finding my own pattern was easy enough. Growing up an only child with toxic parents, I stumbled into adulthood allergic to commitment in any form, romantic or professional. Avoiding marriage and career like the plague, my love life and jobs were random. The French might call my attitude amour fati, a love of fate, while less kind souls dismissed me as a bum. So here I was again, exhibiting exactly the same behaviors that got me into this mess in the first place. Reckless impulsiveness, creative spontaneity, a Pollyanna hope for the best within existential crises fueling the worst. But so what? I like myself and love life. My mistakes are my own, product features of who I am and what I, often despite and to spite myself, yearn to someday become. Our designated 6 p.m. time came and went. 6:02 p.m., 6:05, 6:07. I was in the bathroom again, examining a stray nose hair somehow inexplicably missed, when I heard a gentle knock knock on the door. Room service? I didn't order anything. Complain about the noise? I was quiet, all by myself. Could this actually be happening? Come on, dickhead, answer the damn door. Anna, someone, was clearly on the other side. I fought the almost irresistible temptation to peer through the eye hole, stare fish-eyed at either sucker punch or salvation. But I decided not to gain an unfair advantage, especially this early in our relationship. That was total bullshit, of course. I was simply too frightened to look. We would finally meet eye to eye for better or worse. In my panic, the original Anna Fortnight sprang to mind. That LA brunette who inspired the search precipitating this bizarre tryst in NYC. In many ways, the Anna Fortnight I'd known resuscitated me much like the Anna Fortnight I was about to meet. They'd both entered my life when times were tough and I felt trapped, opening my heart and giving me the courage I needed to change. The first Anna fortnight and I didn't end well, hopefully not a harbinger of what was soon in store behind that hotel room door. Since then, I'd learned so much, such a life-altering relationship worthy of another podcast. Was Anna number one smirking or sniffling across 20 years of time and 2,000 miles of space? Was my eponymous NYC date her final fuck you or I'm sorry? Breath held, temperature rising, blood pressure soaring, I was resigned to my fate, yet somehow eerily confident. This electrifying moment was a long time coming, and I had paid my celibate dues. Imagine a mischievous accounting gnome filling in a ledger of love, reconciling good relationship points with bad. My sexless spreadsheet had to be balanced by some spreading beneath the sheets. At last, the time had come to collect, and with interest. I swung open the door and felt a volcanic rush of pure desire. There she was, Anna Fortnight, smiling, beckoning, and hot as hell. Holy smokes, not only was she the real deal, but she looked even sexier, even more attractive in person. Cat, got your tongue? Anna winked. You gotta let me in, or should I stand here as you undress me with your eyes? I couldn't speak. All I could do was gesture for her to enter, awkwardly checking her out. She noticed, I blushed, she smiled. For a guy who can't stop writing and communicating, you seem to be shy in person. I was flummoxed and befuddled, floodled and bemuxed. I was elated and embarrassed, hilarious and embated. She felt comfortably familiar, yet alluringly alien. I was delirious with joy. Civilization has given us flush toilets and fire, wheels and Snapchat. The poor now eat better and live longer than the pharaohs. Enshrined within the luxuriousness of technology, we often forget the price we pay for forfeiting intuition with intelligence, endorphins with ego. In other words, we think before we feel, act before we react, trust our minds more than our hearts. But every once in a while, we're reminded who we are, how we're wired, and what really matters. Like an echo reverberating through the caverns of our ancestry, we might one day touch another human so gloriously delicious that we unconsciously gasp and make a move. Time standing still until the mind finally catches up to the body days, months, sometimes many years later. Before the memories even formed and I remembered them again and again, we hit it on the couch, in the bed, on the floor, in the bathroom, back in the bed. The breadcrumb trail of our lovemaking seemed to retrace the trajectory of my nervous pacing before she showed, as if the universe were unwinding itself, time traveling in reverse. Years of unhappiness overwritten with bliss. Our physical compatibility was off the charts, but what sealed the deal was the intellectual and emotional combustion. Our minds and hearts sparked in unison, catalyzing each other's curiosity and enthusiasm. We found ourselves in lockstep, in and out of the sack, consuming ideas with as much relish as our bodies, loving our lovemaking alongside our love of the arts, science, politics. Arguably most astonishing as I write these words is how little I remember of the sex itself during that first encounter. Shea lounge opposite the door, French press in the kitchenette, zebra skin rug in the bathroom, all indelibly etched into my mind alongside the warm softness of her skin, the soothing sound of her voice, the luxurious flow of her hair, the vast depth of our yearning. Couples describe that magic moment when they pass the tipping point from one night fling, casual dating, true romance, and into life partner. We felt it fast, our first night together, naked and embracing in bed, reading Speed the Plow aloud, playing the characters we'd soon see on stage. Deceit was their inexorable undoing. Ironies abounded as sadly, honesty would soon be ours. That winter was particularly cold in New York City, but we were burning it up. Insta lovers, we were meant for each other, mesmerized and in constant contact throughout that amorous weekend. From Broadway to the East Village, MoMA to Soho, restaurants to room service, our first weekend felt like a honeymoon, making up for our eternities of lonely marriages. We were in different places but wanted exactly the same thing. I was sexlessly still married with small kids, while Anna was divorced, had adult kids, was busily dating, had a boy toy on booty call to keep her company. After 2 hours together, our external lives vanished. And after 2 days, Anna raised the stakes in blending my life with hers by inviting me to her home in Philly. Infatuated, as impulsive as I was, Anna plunged me into her life with a visit to her favorite bar, introductions to some of her close friends, and a passionate evening at her own house. I could feel the local vibe. Shell shocked, she's never love struck. For Christ's sakes, she's just met this guy. And reveled at her pushback. Here he is. Can you see we're madly in love? Soulmates only getting started. Breathless, our time up. Already physically and psychologically addicted to each other's bodies and minds, we somehow wrenched ourselves apart and said our goodbyes with the assurance that the separation wouldn't last. It didn't. Back home, our texts skyrocketed from hourly to minute by minute. New Year's Eve was only a month or so away, and we made big plans. I lied to my wife for the first time, telling her business forced me to Chicago close to the holidays, might as well stay with friends. I rationalized my deceit with the tacit truth. She didn't care what I did as long as I came back and took care of her, took care of the kids. We weren't intimate anyway. She didn't like me anyway. And I was in love. Love! The sheer zaniness made our second getaway even more powerful. Before I knew it, I was at the Philly airport this time, texting her a fantasy. I'd be a visiting colleague interviewing for a promotion. The details are fuzzy, but submissive sex with the boss remains as vivid as yesterday. The thrill of Anna being in absolute control of my destiny, a tantalizing projection of our actual situation. Falling back out of character, we fell even further for each other. If we'd lost our minds 6 weeks earlier in New York City, we went totally bonkers that holiday week in her hometown. Love was the drug, and we were high as hell. When not coupling, as a couple, we went everywhere Anna could take me. Museums, restaurants, bars, her friends' homes, businesses, workplaces. I got the world tour of Anna Land with the intent I'd be back to stay. Cutting muster with everyone near and dear to Anna's heart, the real heavy vetting loomed ahead. As we drove to her parents' home, Anna marveled at my fearlessness while warning me about her mom, who had already expressed skepticism bordering on alarm. I was married, had young kids, lived in California. She'll never let me move, Anna said, which implicitly meant you'll have to relocate here. Yes, we were talking crazy stuff like that. Oblivious, her father was stately, taciturn, and kind, boozing us up. Her mother gave me a laser beam stare down. I somehow managed to break the ice and ingratiate myself by sharing an oral history of my sexless marriage, all of them losing it at the part about working for a rhinoceros breeder. Turns out Anna's ex sported the nickname Rhino. Who knew? I was everything that Anna's ex wasn't, and Anna was everything my wife wasn't. What could go wrong? Only fly in the ointment was my seemingly hopeless situation and its ridiculous logistics. Meanwhile, Anna had her booty call boy toy and long line of local suitors, which seemed to me far less threatening than the prospect of upending my entire existence for someone I'd just met. We want the one we can't have, and if you have someone you don't want, then the best way to want them again is for someone else to have them. So when my wife's niece snooped and found Anna's text messages on my phone, our sexless marriage got reanimated. Realizing that her free ride was for the first time in actual peril, my wife effortlessly transformed herself from ninja to geisha. I shrugged at her accusations, resisted her propositions, then texted Anna that our cover was blown. "Oh my God," she wrote back. "What are you going to do?" What was I going to do? On the one hand, I knew the game my wife was playing. On the other, I understood that, regardless of the predictable outcome, my young kid's happiness and stability were ultimately at stake. As the uncertainty rose, so did the frequency of her sexual advances. Bizarro world morphing from go fuck yourself forever to love you long time tonight. I knew she was totally using me. She'd let me hit it for a month, likely less, until interest in this Anna person went away. The coast clear, she turned me back into a freezer burned popsicle, ground state of our sexless marriage. Even though I knew this, and she knew that I knew this, and I knew that she knew that I knew this, I felt I had no choice but to give her a chance. Our whole family was at stake. So far, my kids knew nothing about my pain or her indifference. I had shielded them from my anguish. If I blew the whole thing up, there would be no turning back. I had to indulge her to make damn sure. Anna called bullshit. She pointed out correctly that I should have left this shitty marriage years ago. She insisted correctly that I was an asshole for demanding the wife who hated me to have sex with me in the first place. And she observed also correctly that by going back, I was simply assuaging my guilt and postponing the need to take responsibility for my own life and actions. Instead, I insisted on that last chance, rationalizing the choice with the help of my friend Ken, who suggested to Anna, with whom he was friends with, of course, on Facebook, to chill and to wait it out. Before long, I'd be in the same boat, Ken mentioned, sleeping on the same sofa, browsing the same porn. I simply had to leap back in long enough for the obvious to be inevitably revealed. After the smoke cleared and dust settled on my sexless marriage, I'd truly and definitively and finally be free. What I loved most about Anna was her stoicism, her belief in doing the right thing, seamlessly blending with her effervescent energy and impulsiveness. Certainly, those same traits made it impossible for her to tolerate being benched while I screwed my ex wife for the sake of eventually divorcing her. I frantically texted and called. Anna scorned me. How long would she wait? I took my wife on a date, our first in years. California Pizza Kitchen seemed fitting as everything about the place was fake, especially the pizza. I gave her an ultimatum and insisted that she repeat it out loud. If we don't have a normal married life, including a physical relationship, we are going to get divorced. She distractedly looked at her watch. The clock was now running. Tick, tock. The next few weeks sent me headlong through the looking glass. Sexless marriage and perfect lover turned upside down and inside out. I gaped at how strange life had become as my once frozen and now hypersexual wife effortlessly made herself available every morning and evening, from floor to ceiling, eagerly welcoming every position, location, and kink I could think. If that weren't weird enough, our fleeting marital ecstasy was flustered by the relentless agony of knowing Anna had again summoned her booty call boy toy. The videographer and me imagined a split screen. On one side, Anna in her candlelit bathroom tub getting banged by a 23-year-old. On the other, this distracted Korean woman faking it with her big, bald sugar daddy. The irony of finally having sex with my sexless wife, thanks to having an extramarital affair, wasn't lost on me. But what really shook me up was the irony of falling deeply in love with someone now avidly re entering her local dating scene, triggering overwhelming feelings of jealousy. I was wrecked and obsessed. I wanted Anna, and now she was sharing her affections with others. We all have coping mechanisms, behavioral techniques to protect and make ourselves feel better. One that I often use is projection. In this case, I was so completely consumed by jealousy that I sent Anna a YouTube video of Sting and Branford Marsalis singing, "If you love someone, set them free." A smooth move. Anna went ballistic. "How dare you give me permission?" Meanwhile, my domestic sexcapades diminished day by day and night by night. Utterly, predictably, and like clockwork, slowly at first and then more rapidly, the diminuendo continued across every sexual variable from frequency to duration, intensity to experimentation. What started as a college dorm fuckfest within weeks reverted to a nursing home euthanasia program. My marriage proved itself a fraud, of course, and I was finally free. But by then, it was too late. Infuriated Anna had not only gone silent, but unfriended me and all of my friends. My marriage was again dead, my new lover gone, a lucky break propelling me light years ahead, only to break me back down into my tiny house of mirrors, infinitely reflecting my foolish face in all directions. Where Ann and I ended was as we began, random people on a random social network, one with the same name as a former lover, and our hero here having loved and lost yet again. What tore us apart were the same forces that joined us: radical candor, brutal honesty, limitless desire. People meet people and hook up all the time, but you know it when a lover changes you forever. The Chinese concept of yuan fen is an interpersonal mix of karma and dharma, destiny and decision. We're allegedly born with unique yang fen for everyone we'll ever meet. All told, Anna and I were physically together for less than a fortnight, a romantic blur. But we shared more than that, those passionate moments reminding us of an unknowable future as we relive countless pasts. Despite our heartbreak, we became the catalysts for the next phase in our lives. I wouldn't be the one, but I showed her what was possible, set the boyfriend bar, and inspired her to find the man of her dreams, which she soon enough did. Anna similarly ignited my passion and potential, helped me leave an unhappy marriage for a happier one, awakened me into finally growing up. But that's really just the beginning of a longer, more intricate story. Parts 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Some of it written, all of it remembered, and the whole catastrophe driving toward what will likely be my third published book. My first, Super Santa. Check it out for a holiday gift. Online, Amazon. My second book, science fiction, first in a series, coming up around the middle of May. I keep moving the goalposts. Wish me luck. I'm excited about that. It'll happen, May or high water. And the book after that, even after revisiting parts 1 and 2 of my Sexless Marriage, I am even more inspired that this is good stuff. I will likely change some of the settings, further tweak the roman à clef indulgence, and turn it into a third-person narrative. Nowadays, more than ever before, interracial marriages have not only gained popularity and started trending, but seem the bedrock of so much of American society. And marriage overall is even more of a problematic institution than it was. And young people are discovering not only the digitally nomadic existence of working from other countries, taking advantage of the few silver linings of the pandemic to work from wherever they care to, but they're also discovering new styles of relationships, redefining the institution and practice of marriage, and in so doing, one would hope, expanding the possibilities and hopefully the joy of what could and should be the union of kindred souls to not only procreate, create families, but find the good life and do it in a way where we aren't self-limiting, where we don't need to skulk around, where honesty and transparency are not necessarily incompatible with freedom, personal freedom, sexual freedom, and our evolution individually and as a species to becoming better if we can, if we even choose to do so within these increasingly tumultuous political and cultural times. So thank you for listening to the No Hair, All Heart podcast. Feel free to comment. There's a little link in the description. You could send me a text if you're curious. If you want to appear as a guest on the show, if you scroll down, you'll notice I have interviewed various folks, including a Gen Z Zoomer who epitomizes a lot of these changes in attitude, a millennial, all sorts of folks. And I just delight in being able to take advantage of the tools and the tech to keep sharing and repurposing content to lay these breadcrumbs of my life and enable them to take on a life of their own, to hopefully bring other people as much pleasure as I receive simply in the sharing.